Before we delve into the shadows of this tale, let me set the scene with a whisper of what awaits. Imagine a city, vibrant and bustling, where the rhythms of daily life play out under a seemingly benevolent sky. Now, picture that same city, slowly, subtly, enveloped by a creeping dread, its harmony fractured by acts of unspeakable darkness. This is a story of how an unseen monster can carve fear into the very soul of a community, turning neighbors into strangers and trust into suspicion. It's a journey into the heart of terror that gripped a nation. If you find yourself drawn into this narrative, if the chill of the unknown sparks your imagination and you wish to explore more tales that plumb the depths of human experience, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel. Your support helps me bring more chilling stories and thought-provoking content to life. Now, let us begin the story of the Obsidian Shadow. The city of Oakhaven had always prided itself on its quiet strength, a sprawling metropolis nestled in the heartland of America, known for its historic districts, burgeoning tech industry, and a populace that valued community. Its crime rate, while not non-existent, rarely ventured into the sensational. That illusion of tranquility shattered on a crisp autumn morning, a season usually celebrated for its vibrant foliage and crisp air, when the first body was discovered. Sarah Jenkins was a creature of habit. Every weekday at precisely 6:30 a.m., she would emerge from her quaint Victorian home on Elm Street, a steaming mug of herbal tea in hand, to collect her morning newspaper from the porch. Her neighbor, an elderly gentleman named Mr. Henderson, would often wave from his own porch, a ritual of neighborly acknowledgement. On October 14th, Mr. Henderson waved, but Sarah didn't appear. He waited, his brow furrowing with mild concern. By 7 a.m., his concern had morphed into a prickle of unease. He called her name, then, with a growing sense of dread, shuffled across the dew-kissed lawn and peered into her front window. What he saw would haunt his dreams for years to come. Sarah Jenkins lay meticulously arranged on her living room floor, her hands clasped over her chest, eyes wide open, staring sightlessly at the ornate ceiling. There was no sign of struggle, no overturned furniture, no forced entry. It was as if she had simply lain down and surrendered to the embrace of death. A small, dark, impossibly sharp shard of obsidian, polished to a terrifying sheen, rested perfectly centered on her forehead, catching the dim morning light. Detective Miles Corbin arrived on the scene 40 minutes later, his usual morning coffee still warm in his thermos, but his appetite already gone. A veteran of Oakhaven PD for nearly 2 decades, Corbin had seen his share of gruesome sights, but this felt different, cleaner, more deliberate, unsettlingly artistic. His partner, Detective Elena Rossi, a sharp, ambitious detective a decade his junior, was already speaking with the first responders, her face a mask of grim determination. "No signs of forced entry, Miles," Rossi stated, meeting his gaze as he stepped under the yellow tape. "Windows and doors secured from the inside. Neighbors didn't hear a thing. Victim was a quiet librarian, 52. Lived alone." Corbin surveyed the scene from the doorway, his eyes taking in every detail. The pristine condition of the house, the victim's serene, almost peaceful expression, the stark black shard. "Cause of death. Preliminary suggests strangulation," Rossi replied, her voice low. "But it was precise. No obvious marks on the neck until the ME gets a closer look. And no mess. Not a drop of blood anywhere. This guy was careful. Careful." That word echoed in Corbin's mind. Amateur killers were messy, driven by passion or panic. This was cold, calculated, almost ritualistic. He stooped beside the body, careful not to disturb anything, and observed the obsidian shard. It wasn't just a random piece of broken glass. It was shaped, almost like a miniature arrowhead, but with no sharp edges beyond the point itself. It felt significant, a deliberate signature. "Get every single piece of forensic evidence from this place," Corbin instructed the crime scene technicians, his voice devoid of emotion. "Every fiber, every print, every speck of dust. Focus on that shard. Find out where it came from, what it is, everything." The initial investigation yielded frustratingly little. No usable fingerprints belonging to an unknown assailant. No DNA that wasn't Sarah's or a few family members. The obsidian shard, while unique, offered no immediate leads. It was a volcanic glass, common in some parts of the world, but not native to Oakhaven or the surrounding region. It was like finding a snowflake in a desert out of place. Deliberate. The Me confirmed strangulation, executed with such precise pressure that it caused minimal external damage, indicating a perpetrator with unusual strength and control, or perhaps an instrument. Oakhaven's local news channels reported Sarah Jenkins's death as a tragic, isolated incident, a home invasion gone wrong despite the lack of evidence. The police department, under pressure, issued reassurances that there was no immediate threat to the wider community. But Corbin and Rossi knew better. They had a gut feeling, a cold premonition that this was just the beginning. The meticulous nature of the crime, the calling card, it all screamed serial. 3 weeks later, their worst fears were confirmed. Arthur Pendleton, a flamboyant interior designer known for his vibrant personality and even more vibrant art collection, was found in his penthouse apartment overlooking the bustling city center. Like Sarah, he was found meticulously arranged, this time in his plush armchair, a half-finished glass of whiskey on the table beside him. His expression, too, was one of eerie calm. And there, resting perfectly on his forehead, was another obsidian shard, identical in size and shape to the first. This time, the media frenzy was unavoidable. The striking similarities between the two murders ignited a firestorm of speculation and fear. Oakhaven was no longer safe. The police department, now scrambling, had to admit they were dealing with a potential serial killer. The moniker emerged almost immediately from the panicked public and sensationalist headlines. The Obsidian Shadow. The city transformed. Locks were double-checked, security systems became a booming business, and the once lively streets grew eerily quiet after dark. Whispers of the Obsidian Shadow followed every rustle of leaves, every creak of an old house. Parents walked their children to school, constantly looking over their shoulders. A pall of suspicion hung over every interaction. Who was this monster? Why were they killing? And why the obsidian shards? Corbin and Rossi worked around the clock, fueled by stale coffee and a growing sense of desperation. They had a task force now, pulling detectives from other units, but leads remained scarce. Both victims were middle-aged, lived alone, and were economically comfortable, but beyond that, their lives seemed disparate. Sarah, the quiet librarian, and Arthur, the gregarious designer. No known connection, no shared circles. It's like he's picking them at random, Rossi muttered one late night, poring over victim profiles, her fingers tracing the lines on a map dotted with the locations of the two murders. No pattern in profession, social status, or even location in the city. North Side, downtown. It's almost as if he's deliberately avoiding a pattern. Corbin stared at the map, then at a photo of the two obsidian shards, magnified to show their intricate details. Or the pattern isn't one we're looking for. Maybe it's not who they are, but what they represent, or a path he's tracing. He's meticulous, Elena. This isn't random. There's a reason for every single detail, even the lack of a discernible pattern. He picked up one of the obsidian shards from the evidence bag, a controlled exercise to remind himself of its texture. It was cool, smooth, surprisingly light, yet visually dense, absorbing all light. This shard, Elena, is not just a weapon. It's a statement. He wants us to know he was there. He wants us to feel this. The obsidian shadow had arrived in Oakhaven, not with a bang, but with the quiet, chilling precision of two perfectly placed shards, and the city held its breath, waiting for the third. The air was thick with fear, and the once vibrant fall colors now seemed to mock the darkness that had fallen upon their beloved city. The Oakhaven Police Department's newly formed Obsidian Shadow Task Force became a pressure cooker. Days bled into weeks, and the initial panic morphed into a dull, constant thrum of anxiety throughout the city. The media, both local and national, had descended like vultures, their cameras and microphones thrust into the faces of grieving families and tight-lipped police officials. Every minute detail of the murders was dissected, every expert opinion solicited, painting a grim portrait of a city under siege by an invisible enemy. The third victim, Eleanor Vance, a retired history professor known for her sharp wit and meticulously maintained rose garden, was discovered 2 weeks after Arthur Pendleton. Her home, a charming but isolated cottage on the city's western edge, offered no more clues than the previous scenes. She was found in her study, surrounded by stacks of ancient texts, her reading glasses perched on a closed book. The obsidian shard, predictably, rested on her forehead. The Oakhaven community was now in a full-blown state of terror. Schools implemented stricter security protocols, businesses saw a drastic drop in evening customers, and community events were canceled. Neighborhood watch groups sprung up, but even their collective vigilance seemed futile against a killer who left no trace and chose victims with no discernible connection. The randomness was the most terrifying aspect. If anyone could be next, then no one was safe. FBI Special Agent Richard Davies arrived from Quantico, a stoic, silver-haired man with an unnerving ability to read people and crime scenes. He brought with him the cold, logical detachment of a seasoned profiler, but even he looked grim as he walked through Eleanor Vance's house, meticulously avoiding contaminating the already sparse evidence. "The MO is consistent," Davies stated, his voice flat, as he reviewed the crime scene photos with Corbin and Rossi. No forced entry, precise strangulation, meticulous staging of the body, and the obsidian shard as a signature. He's taking his time. He's in control. But why these victims? Rossi pressed, tapping a pen against her pad. A librarian, an interior designer, a history professor. They couldn't be more different. No shared social circles, no financial ties, no romantic entanglements. Davies leaned back, his eyes narrowed in thought. Sometimes the lack of an apparent connection is the connection. He could be targeting a specific demographic feature we haven't identified yet, or he could be deliberately selecting diverse victims to obscure any pattern. Or, and this is more chilling, their individual identities are irrelevant. They are merely vessels for his message, or canvases for his art. Corbin found the profiler's clinical assessment both disturbing and insightful. His art? You think he sees this as art? The meticulousness, the staging, the signature. It's all highly ritualized, Davies explained. It suggests a killer who finds meaning or satisfaction in the process itself, perhaps even a perverse sense of beauty. The obsidian shard is more than a calling card. It's a symbol. Volcanic glass born of fire and earth, sharp and reflective, yet utterly dark. It speaks to something primal, fundamental. The investigation ground on. The task force followed every potential lead. Rare obsidian collectors, geology clubs, people with a history of violent crime and a penchant for the unusual. Nothing panned out. The shards themselves were geologically identifiable as originating from a specific volcanic region in Oregon, but tracing a small, polished piece of glass to a source was like finding a needle in a continent-sized haystack. Corbin felt the weight of the city's fear pressing down on him. Sleepless nights were filled with recurring images of the victim's vacant eyes, the unsettling glint of the obsidian. He found himself walking the streets of Oakhaven at night, not just for patrol, but to feel the city's pulse, its suppressed terror. The once bustling cafes now closed early, parks were empty, and the vibrant hum of nightlife had been replaced by a tense silence, punctuated only by the wail of distant sirens. Then came the fourth victim, Marcus Thorne, a popular local journalist who had been openly critical of the police's handling of the case, demanding more transparency and accusing them of incompetence. His body was found in his home office, surrounded by his research on the obsidian shadow. This time, the killer left something new. A single folded piece of parchment beneath the obsidian shard. Corbin was the first to carefully retrieve it, his gloved hands trembling slightly. It was ancient-looking, thick paper, with a single line written in elegant, almost calligraphic script. The purest darkness lies in the clearest light. The message sent a fresh wave of shock and anger through the task force. It was a direct taunt, a psychological jab at the very people trying to stop him. The media, already in a frenzy, interpreted it as a chilling philosophical statement, fueling the narrative of a highly intelligent, elusive killer. Agent Davies, however, saw it differently. This is a deliberate escalation. He's engaging us directly now. Marcus Thorne was criticizing the investigation. This note is a response, an assertion of his control. He wants us to think he's a philosophical mastermind, but he's also revealing a vulnerability: ego. Ego doesn't help us find him, Rossi countered, frustration evident in her voice. We have no DNA, no prints, no witnesses, no motive beyond this cryptic nonsense. It's not nonsense, Detective, Davies said calmly. The purest darkness lies in the clearest light. What does that mean to him? Is it about hidden depravities in seemingly good people? Or is it about exposing the darkness within the city itself? The bright, shining facade of Oakhaven, and the shadow he casts over it. Corbin stared at the note, his mind racing. The seemingly random victims, the meticulousness, the obsidian, and now this taunt. It all spoke to a killer who saw himself as more than just a murderer. He was an artist, a philosopher, a force of nature. And Marcus Thorne, the journalist, was the first victim who had actively inserted himself into the narrative of the Obsidian Shadow. This new development, while terrifying, also offered a sliver of hope. If the killer was becoming more confident, more eager to communicate, he might make a mistake. The task force doubled its efforts, assigning teams to analyze every word of the note, every possible literary or philosophical reference. They scoured Thorne's recent articles, his emails, looking for anyone he might have agitated, anyone who might have taken his criticisms personally. The city remained in a state of suspended animation, a beautiful autumn slowly decaying into a bleak winter. The leaves fell, not just from the trees, but from the hopeful hearts of Oakhaven's citizens. The Obsidian Shadow was no longer just a headline. It was a tangible, breathing entity that haunted their dreams and dictated their lives. And somewhere, in the heart of that fear-stricken city, the Shadow was still watching, still planning, waiting for its next canvas. The taunt left at Marcus Thorne's scene, "The purest darkness lies in the clearest light," ignited a new intensity in the Oakhaven task force. Agent Davies posited that the killer's escalating confidence and desire for direct engagement might lead to a mistake. The note itself became a primary piece of evidence, subjected to every forensic analysis imaginable, from handwriting recognition, which yielded no match in any database, to paper fiber analysis, tracing its unique composition to a specific, artisanal paper mill in Maine. It was a breakthrough, however small, indicating the killer sourced his materials with the same meticulous care as his crimes. The geographical pattern, or lack thereof, of the first 4 murders continued to baffle the team. Corbin, however, had a nagging feeling. He kept returning to the map, placing pins for each victim. North, downtown, west, central. It seemed random, yet the precision of the killer contradicted true randomness. One late night, staring at the map, an idea sparked. What if it's not a geographical pattern based on coordinates? Corbin mused aloud to Rossi, who was half asleep over a mountain of files. But something symbolic, like constellations, or a path. Rossi squinted at the map. A path? What kind of path? A path through the city, not to a specific type of victim. Imagine a journey. Each murder a step. Corbin grabbed a marker and started drawing lines between the pins, trying various sequences. None made sense. Then, he remembered something from Eleanor Vance's murder, the history professor. Her study, filled with books on ancient philosophy and symbolism. He pulled up her case file, remembering a specific book on her desk, The Language of Alchemists, Symbols and Transformations. He flipped through a digital copy of the book, provided by Eleanor's estate, until he found a section on geometric patterns in esoteric traditions. One specific symbol caught his eye, a 5-pointed star or pentagram, often representing the spirit overseeing the 4 elements. He then overlaid the pentagram onto the Oakhaven map, trying to orient it. He adjusted, rotated, enlarged, and then, with a jolt that sent adrenaline coursing through him, it clicked. The 5 murder locations, when connected in a specific, non-chronological order, formed a near-perfect, slightly distorted pentagram, with the last victim, Marcus Thorne, positioned almost perfectly at its top point. The distortion, Corbin realized, wasn't a mistake, but perhaps a reflection of Oakhaven's asymmetrical city grid. He's using the city itself as his canvas, Corbin breathed, pointing at the map. He's literally drawing a symbol with his victims. The obsidian shadow isn't just about the darkness. It's about a warped sense of order, a twisted ritual. Rossi stared, her eyes widening. A pentagram, that's a powerful symbol, often associated with occultism or with the human form. And Thorne was the last one, the head of the star, after his taunt about light and darkness. It's like he was completing a ritual, culminating in a response to the city's light. Agent Davies, when presented with the theory, was initially skeptical but quickly recognized the killer's meticulous nature. If this is correct, Detective, it indicates a profound and highly intelligent individual, operating under a complex belief system. He isn't just a murderer. He's a high priest of his own dark religion. The source of the obsidian, the artisanal paper. It all points to a carefully curated, bespoke terror. The new pattern gave the task force a direction. They started looking for a central point within that pentagram, or areas around its edges, for any sign of the killer's base of operations. Simultaneously, the forensic team, spurred by the specificity of the artisanal paper, finally traced a bulk order of similar parchment to a small, independent art supply store in a quiet, unassuming part of Oakhaven, not far from the center of the pentagram. The store's owner, a meticulous woman named Ms. Albright, had a logbook. The name in the logbook, Arthur Vance. The name sent a ripple of confusion through the task force. Vance? Eleanor Vance was a victim. Is it a relative? Rossi asked. Ms. Albright, after seeing the police sketch, confirmed the buyer. A quiet, unassuming man, mid-40s, always polite, who purchased specialized art supplies, including volcanic rock for sculpture and obsidian shards for intricate inlay work. She knew him as Arthur. She also knew his last name, Finch. Arthur Finch. The piece clicked into place with a horrifying realization. The killer used the last name of his third victim as an alias to purchase his supplies. He was toying with them, hiding in plain sight. A frantic search for Arthur Finch began. They found a sparse digital footprint, an old social media profile, a property record. He owned a small, nondescript house, just 2 blocks from the art supply store, and precisely located at the approximate geometric center of the pentagram Corbin had identified on the map. The night of the raid was cold and silent, the air thick with anticipation. SWAT teams, led by Corbin and Rossi, surrounded Arthur Finch's house. A faint light glowed from a window in the back. As they approached, a soft, almost imperceptible humming sound could be heard from inside. Corbin kicked in the front door, the wood splintering with a loud crack that shattered the night's silence. The house was meticulously clean, minimalist, almost sterile. No clutter, no personal photos, just stark functionality. As they moved through the house, they found a workshop in the basement. It was immaculate, filled with woodworking tools, small kilns, and intricate machinery for polishing stones. On a workbench lay several obsidian shards, identical to the ones found at the crime scenes, some finished, some still rough. A half-carved wooden figure, strangely reminiscent of a stylized human form, lay beside them, its head unfinished. The humming sound was coming from a ventilation system, and there, standing quietly in the center of the workshop, was Arthur Finch. He was a slight man, unremarkable in every way, with wire-rimmed glasses and a calm, almost serene expression. He didn't resist, didn't try to flee. He simply turned, his eyes holding a disturbing mix of intelligence and detachment, and stared at Corbin. "I suppose you've come to appreciate my work," Finch said, his voice soft, devoid of menace, almost polite. "The purest darkness. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? To see it emerge from the chaos of life, shaped, refined." Corbin felt a shiver run down his spine, not from fear of the man, but from the chilling calmness of his delusion. "You've killed 4 people, Mr. Finch." "No," Finch corrected, a slight, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. I simply helped them shed their superficial light to reveal the truth beneath. Each a point on the greater design, a transformation. The city, it needed a new vision, a truer one. The capture of Arthur Finch, the obsidian shadow, sent shockwaves through Oakhaven and across the nation. The story of the quiet craftsman who used a symbolic pattern to commit his gruesome acts, believing he was revealing a purer darkness, became a chilling testament to the hidden depths of human depravity. In the ensuing trial, Finch remained calm, almost philosophical, never expressing remorse, only a detached explanation of his art and his vision for Oakhaven. He was eventually convicted and sentenced to multiple life terms, ensuring he would spend the rest of his days locked away from the light he so despised. Oakhaven slowly began to heal. The fear, though deeply ingrained, receded. But the city was forever changed. The memory of the obsidian shadow served as a stark reminder that even in the clearest light, the purest darkness could lurk, waiting for its moment to emerge, leaving behind only polished shards and indelible scars. Detective Miles Corbin and Elena Rossi, though lauded as heroes, carried the weight of the investigation, forever marked by the chilling precision of Arthur Finch's vision. The peace they had fought so hard to restore was now tinged with a permanent, unsettling awareness of the shadows that could forever lurk beneath the surface.